They say Islam is perfect and Muslims are not. But is it possible that both are not perfect? Ex-Muslims who have doubts get crucified, saying they were never Muslim to begin with. People even ask dumb trick questions like how many rakat in wudu? Muslims will often gaslight anyone who doubts, citing that those who doubt didn't truly know Islam, or so-and-so left for reasons that are not good enough to qualify leaving Islam. Today, my wife and I are going to critique Yaqeen's article of 7 reasons why people leave Islam one by one. We're going to evaluate whether they got the top reasons why Muslims leave Islam right or wrong. Doubts in Islam are the reason why people like my wife and myself do this kind of work. We were once there ourselves, questioning this religion for many reasons. The reasons people doubt Islam can be as unique as the person themselves. Converting to Islam is as simple as taking the Shahada, the declaration of faith. That's all you need to get in. However, when you doubt or leave Islam, it becomes much more complicated than a simple Shahada. Sometimes the bar to leave Islam is just frankly impossible to reach in the mind of Muslims. Let's get into it. Part 1. Yaqeen's study on 7 points of doubt. Yaqeen Institute is one of the biggest Islamic think tanks, designed to eradicate doubt in the heart of Muslims. Doubt can manifest in a number of ways, but through their research, Yaqeen have identified 7 top reasons. Let's take a look and go through these together. Number 7. Yup, Islam doesn't make sense, and this is going to create disbelievers out of Muslims for a long time. Islam doesn't make sense. If it did, people wouldn't be leaving it in the way that they do. They wouldn't have a pandemic of doubt and apostasy, which is what we see now. Number 6. The author of the study wanted to make this appear like doubts were caused by how other Muslims behave rather than Islam itself. But this is another key characteristic of Islam: intolerance, antagonistic, and hateful teachings that cause division. Not all Muslims live by these hateful teachings, but the fact that they cause doubts shows us that Muslims do have consciences. Number 5. This problem remains unsolvable. Not much more needs to be said other than the fact that pointedly unnecessary suffering remains a big part of the nature of our world. This suffering contradicts the idea of an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good God. Number 4. People acting like hypocrites? This can be a huge turnoff for sure if you look up to people, especially imams or leaders, and they let you down over and over again. Muhammad himself is a prime example of a religious individual who behaved badly, and so many people lose faith when they realize how awful some of his actions were compared to who he claimed to be. It's the same thing when these people in power use the system of Islam in order to benefit themselves. To make matters worse, these imams have incentives to stay in the religion even if they no longer believe in it, and grift off the community. Coming out and saying you left it is much more difficult than continuing to quietly disbelieve while benefiting off your flock. Glad that Muslims are able to see through the lies in this case, and this causes them to exit stage left. Number 3. Yet again, trying to brush this off as a people problem. This doesn't really get to the crux of the matter. This is an Islamic problem all over again. The intolerance towards other faiths is core to Islam. It's a dominate over all other ways of life religion. It's a fight the people until they pay jizya religion. Both of these are in the Quran. What did you expect? Number 2. Notice a pattern here. It's almost like there's something wrong with this religion. Terrorism and killings are yet again something that seems to reoccur in a pattern with this deen. It's not random, it's by design. A rotten tree will give rotten fruits. Number 1. This last one, the top reason, is a very strange one. I'm not even sure what this means exactly, but I think it's just another way to say intolerance among Muslims. Sunnis treating Shias badly, Sunnis treating Ahmadis badly, people complaining that your madhab is wrong, having to wear hijab in a specific way. The rigidity and inflexibility in the religion turns away so many. As a bonus point, the study, not in the video, but the full study mentioned that white people are more likely to leave Islam. Isn't that interesting? Maybe because they're also converts. I'm not sure, but that's my guess. Overall, you can see that these are all systemic problems with Islam, and much of this is truly unique to Islam. I'd love to compare this to reasons why people leave another religion like Christianity to see how different the reasons are.
Analysis of the themes. There's a lot to unpack here, but I would say that all 7 of these reasons have a few things in common. First of all, I would say that all of them are tied to trauma in some way. Hearing about how your religion treats other people, even yourself, is a form of trauma. All of these reasons for doubt are based on moral intuition, the idea that deep down inside of you, something doesn't feel right. All of these feelings that people have come from lived contradiction. Islam saying certain groups, such as women, are supposed to be treated a certain way. However, whether it's through lived experience, finding sources that say the opposite, or both, you start to doubt because this treatment is the cause of suffering. I am just using one example here, but it could quite literally be anything. Perhaps you experienced a trauma because of someone in a community and no one came to your side. These experiences can build up over time, causing someone to doubt. Doubt can be what Sneeko talked about, coming across a hadith that bothered him. It could be just one hadith, one verse, or one experience that creates this void between what you were told and what you have lived. Everyone was surprised that out of all the things that could make him doubt Islam, it was that one obscure hadith. However, Sneeko does come from an interracial background. His father is black and his mother is Asian. When Islam preaches how there is no racism and no one is better than the other except in religion and good deeds, you can easily doubt when coming across a hadith that says, Yemenis are the best of people. It makes you stop and think, hey, I see a contradiction here. Quick pause. If you like this content and want to see more, I love talking about women's issues in Islam, social issues created by the system of Islam, and deep diving into the reasons behind doubt in leaving Islam. So click subscribe and join us on Patreon. I will leave the link to Patreon in the description below. Despite doubt being a completely valid and healthy response to being a human, it can create a lot of psychological distress. In the human mind, doubt can be cognitive dissonance, such as being told one thing but reading another. Doubt can be distressing because it ruptures your identity, who you have always known yourself to be. Doubt can also lead to anxiety and depression, and when you tell Muslims you're feeling hopeless and depressed, they tell you to read more Quran and do more dhikr. Ask me how I know, guys. You know what else doubt can do? It can lead one to fear and panic about what happens if they die. Will they go to hell? What if Islam is true? This is another form of psychological distress that can accompany doubt, and it's not fun to live with these thoughts and feelings. Let's talk about Mohammad Hijab with Aisha and social belonging. Bear with me for a minute. I'm going to explain to you how this relates to the topic. Doubt can lead to the breakdown of social belonging, losing friends and family. If you haven't lost your family or friends after bringing up your doubts, maybe you were worried about what would happen if you did bring it up. The social consequences of doubting or leaving Islam are really heavy. Let's look at Aisha, Mohammad Hijab's secret misyar wife. It's clear that Aisha has struggled because of what's happened to her, and Muslims are ready and willing to crucify her for having doubts and questions. I just want to ask everyone something. The Muslims, why is it shameful for someone like Aisha to doubt or be on the verge of apostasy after what she went through? Why do you guys constantly say that people like her are agents of Israel and she was never Muslim to begin with? Is it possible that she is simply a human being that was hurt and wants to speak out about her experiences? Your Muslim organizations spend millions in donations and funds from your own community to make people not doubt, But what good is spending any of that money when people who doubt are treated like absolute garbage? This is a question I had myself long before I left Islam. I would see comments like this when someone like Dina Tokyo removed her hijab, how she was never a Muslim and this and that. As a Muslim, when I would read comments like this, it had an effect on me, even many years ago. As time passed and I accumulated my own observations and experiences, my doubt grew. Watching Muslims treat other Muslims poorly was one of the big driving forces behind my apostasy. After seeing what happened with Sister Aisha, I am starting to doubt these Islamic think tanks and their supposed goal. People like Noman Ali Khan hop on the minbar and start preaching about how young Muslims saw something on TikTok and start to doubt.
And when those young people turn to social media and start saying all kinds of ridiculous things about the Quran, about the Prophet ﷺ, they start making all kinds of claims about their doubts in the religion and all of this stuff. We declare kufr on that. Well, did you provide them the right kind of orientation before you saw ignorance come out of their mouth? Because these people, they accepted Islam by tribe, right? Well, what do you find in the ummah today? You have a lot of people that are Muslim because their family's Muslim. So they're Muslim by tribe too. They don't know any better. We're not at war with people that don't know any better. We're not going to fight people that don't know any better, even though they've committed an offense.
But if we are being honest here, the internet is one of the biggest enemies of Islam. The behavior of Muslims and the ghastly things they say, such as McDonald's marriages, is the biggest ammunition for someone to doubt, to question everything they were ever taught.
Honestly, someone comes to the office and say, listen, I need to get married, this and that. I say, listen, I need to go to the toilet. So this is going to have to be a quick one. I tell you the truth, I've even gotten people married on WhatsApp. And now there's a difference of opinion on the matter. But I was driving and this guy, he called me and said, look, I'm going to commit haram. He goes, I've got 2 witnesses ready on this WhatsApp group. Can I add you and you do the thing? So I brought them in. I said to the woman, I said to her, listen, this guy's probably going to leave you. I know this guy. And he was like, what are you doing? You're here to try and make things easy for me. I said, but it's not fair on the poor woman because we know that you're a pernicious man. You're a khabith. And I said, what's the mahar? And the guy said, you don't want to hear this one. This is before McDonald's was on the boycott list. He goes, I'm going to give her a meal in McDonald's. I said, sister, don't do this. I said, at least have something. No, she said, I don't mind. I don't care, whatever. It happened. And he did, in fact, divorce her, unfortunately. But I said, I told you so, and that was it.
It makes you realize that anyone is susceptible to being treated poorly in this system. Is this what we really want for our lives? To have such little value to men that they take us to McDonald's after our nikah, as opposed to a fancy steakhouse for lobster and filet mignon? And after all this, when we reach out to religious leaders who are supposed to care and help us, they tell us that we are the ones that have to be sorry and forgive. If that wouldn't make someone doubt, I don't know what would. The fact that Aisha reached out to over 100 imams and they all told her to forgive and forget makes me believe this isn't about doubts to Muslims. This isn't about justice. Aisha's doubts, because of what she went through, were presented to the world as a moral failure on her behalf by other Muslims. Let's say for argument's sake that Aisha stays Muslim. How can she be accepted back into her community after she was blasted online for having doubts and reaching out to ex-Muslims after her own community failed her? When people leave Islam, Muslims have no one to blame but themselves. Their behavior online to those that leave says everything you need to know about why we leave to begin with. Doubt, no matter where or what it comes from, is a valid human experience to have. This is not an intellectual failure on your behalf. This is not something to be ashamed of. It's something to sit with, acknowledge, and explore by whatever means necessary.
What doubt looked for me personally? My doubts started with the stories in the Quran, then the science in the Quran. I was able to bury my doubt in a way that contained it inside for a year. But eventually, it kept creeping out and I wasn't able to lie to myself any longer. I had to face the music, so to speak. And then I decided to read everything I could about the problems Islam had. It was a gradual process of expanding my mind and reading things that contradicted what I had been taught and what I believed for so many years. I was still married with kids at this time, so I told myself, let me keep it to myself and not let anyone know until I'm more confident that I'm right. When I eventually went public and shared my doubts, I had friends offer to talk to me and try to get me back into the Islamic mold. It didn't work, as you can see. And then some of them turned their backs on me or even tried to publicly slander me, kind of like what recently happened with Mohammad Hijab and Aisha. As my former friend Arij said, he wanted to show the holes were in me, not Islam. I see these people now as so small-minded, like Plato's allegory of the cave. These people are scared of the light and want to stay inside forever. I've spoken about this in much more detail in some of my other videos, so I'll leave it at that for now.
What doubt looked like for me personally. Doubt is another topic that is close to my heart. And as someone who was once Muslim herself, I observed these conversations surrounding doubt from Muslims and ex-Muslims for many years. When I first converted to Islam, one of my absolute favorite series was The Beginning and the End by Omar Suleiman. At the time of becoming Muslim, I felt high from the comfort of lectures such as these, feeling like I had found the answers to my existential questions. I went to a number of events where I listened to famous Islamic scholars speak. I attended the masjid and I even sent my daughter to Islamic school. However, when I experienced my own trauma and experienced even more trauma on top of the trauma I already had under my belt as a Muslim, things started to unravel for me. This led to years of push and pull, constantly feeling like my brain was going through some sort of psychological warfare. As my doubts grew and my current experiences with Islam and Muslims were shaping my assessment of staying or leaving, I slowly became more empowered by my decision to leave. For years, it was constantly a struggle between, should I stay or should I go? What will my life look like if I start all over without Islam? What will the meaning of my life be? What are the repercussions of raising my child without this belief system as opposed to with? How do I recreate myself in my life after what I went through as a Muslim? Is there any way back from this? Can I somehow make peace with my doubt? Ultimately, I left Islam behind after Ramadan 2023, and I never looked back. Honestly, it doesn't matter how many millions of dollars Islamic think tanks throw at this issue. It's the system and the way it tells people to behave is the issue here. Of course, we can do a deep dive into how problematic the sources are as well, which I have my own issues with. However, I like to talk about social issues because this is a part of Islam that Muslims live on a daily basis. Common Muslim platitudes used to handle doubt. Muslims will often encourage emotional suppression for those with doubts and trauma. After hearing the same things from people over and over, such as reading more Quran or comparing your experience to the Prophet, you start to realize that Muslims don't actually want to help you. They want you and your problems to go away. If you lost someone, people will bring up Prophet Muhammad's loss. It's not about focusing on the individual's problems, but unfairly comparing their pain to Muhammad's. Comparing my life to Muhammad's doesn't help in the slightest. If anything, it makes me feel like my pain and upset is being rejected, dismissed. It creates an impossible standard. How can you say anything else when you are being compared to the supposed greatest man who ever lived? Expressing pain, then using Muhammad as an example, is just another way to shame people and make them feel as if they are ungrateful. Muslims also use platitudes like have sabr, which means be patient. In a way, telling someone to just have patience discourages them from seeking help. It's almost accusatory too. Like, why would you say have patience as if the person hasn't tried that? Telling someone to have patience or pray more is just a Muslim way to pathologize people who seek help. This is also what happened to Sister Aisha. She had an experience, spoke out, and Muslims immediately framed her very valid emotions as a mental problem. In conclusion, doubt isn't a weakness. It's survival. It's the human conscience refusing to be silenced by fear, guilt, or religious control. If Islam were truly perfect, it wouldn't need think tanks, smear campaigns, and emotional blackmail to keep people in line. It would simply stand on its own. We stand with every doubter who was ever gaslit, shamed, or exiled, not because they were broken, but because they refused to betray their own sense of right and wrong. No amount of money or propaganda can stop people from seeing the cracks for themselves, and that's exactly why we're here. If you like this content and want to see more of my takes on women's issues in Islam, click the subscribe button. Want to help us do more? I'm working every day on this channel now and would appreciate your support on Patreon. Hope you enjoyed this video. This is Mr. and Mrs. Friendly Ex-Muslim signing out.